Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Tank Diaries. Today we've got Luke Fribbens from Cold Banana Studios in Bournemouth with us. Luke, thank you very much for coming along today.
No, thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, it's great that you could make the time to come down. I know you're really busy and you're probably one of the directors that's in the earliest stages of running a business. You're not quite 2 years in, or you're just about 2 years in?
Just 2 years.
Just 2 years in?
2 years about a week ago. So yeah, celebrating our 2 years still.
Oh, brilliant. Do anything fun?
No.
No. Too busy.
Too busy, unfortunately. Yeah. Don't give anyone time off.
Yeah. See, seems to be a common problem with startup companies.
Yeah, exactly.
So, so you have a .NET development house. So you've got a development agency is probably not the right word because that's why you call it a studio, isn't it? You're .NET developers and you predominantly do back end, don't you? And you specialise in the Microsoft language. Is that correct?
Yeah, certainly. So we've kind of found a niche in the digital market, I suppose, that most other agencies aren't doing, which is .NET, and that allows us to partner and build relationships with other agencies and not be kind of stepping on their toes, and we can actually really form good relationships with their clients, but also with their in-house team as well.
Okay, so why .NET? Well, I suppose before I start asking why .NET development, you know, where did you come from before that? What were you doing before you set up the business?
Yeah, certainly. So I spent about 6 years at another agency in Bournemouth. I was a director there and helped them grow the business from scratch, basically. And that gave me a huge amount of experience to see the growth of a business. But also to be dealing with CEOs of big companies that I'd have never had the opportunity to do if I wasn't there.
Now you're 30 now, aren't you?
Yeah, just. So
you've had the business for 2 years, and you helped grow the previous agency from the age of 22.
Yes, yeah. So I left university and spent a year working for a software house.
As opposed to travelling, which is what so many people do.
Exactly, and that was my plan. I kind of a year out of university, I quit my job at the software house to go travelling across America. And two close friends of mine offered me a job for the new agency that they just started. And the opportunity was too good to turn down. Unfortunately, fortunately for me, I picked it up and ran with it because I don't think I'd be here today without that. I'd probably still be travelling around America in a camper van.
Good job if you can get it.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a few of us who would probably actually quite like to be away from running a business and out there just sort of seeing the world.
Definitely, but I think I'd still get bored too easily.
Yeah.
I don't think I could. I struggled for a week away on a holiday on a beach without being attached to technology.
Yeah, I know that. I definitely know that feeling. So you helped grow another agency up to considerable size, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think there were about 30, 35 when I left.
Wow.
So yeah, it was rapid growth over those years, which was fantastic to be a part of. And I kind of, so I was the development director there, so I oversaw all the development side of the business, from delivering the project to actually doing the code myself. So yeah, it gave me a huge amount of kind of experience in all different areas, which was brilliant.
And you must have worked with a company that size. You must have worked with some big clients, you know.
Yeah, certainly.
You said you got an opportunity to sit in the same room as directors and CEOs of people that you wouldn't have previously got the opportunity to.
Of all different industries as well. So we had hospitality clients who had huge investment behind them, like global investment behind them, through to healthcare clients as well, private healthcare, through to people like Dixon's and Carphone Warehouse. So yeah, the bigger they are, the more kind of hoops you have to jump through and the harder it gets, but the more of a challenge it is, I suppose, as well.
So you did 6 years there, and I suppose the question that we ask everyone, and it's kind of the same. There's a stage you take. There's a stage where everyone goes through where you like, I've got to go and do this on my own. Why did you make the jump? Because obviously you must have been earning fairly well there, and you know, still only 28 years old, you know, and you know, why take the jump, and when there's a lot. I would say most people think there's a lot of risk involved when
completely.
you can be quite comfortable. 6 years, you're fairly well embedded in the business.
Yeah, no, certainly, and I was comfortable there, and I earned better money there than I kind of could have wished for, and certainly better than I earn at the moment in a startup business. But it was that opportunity of being your own boss. I've always been business minded and wanted to do my own thing.
You set up a venture quite young, didn't you?
Yeah. So I set up a men's accessories, what actually started as a Cufflink store, online Cufflink store, when I was only 13 years old.
13?
So, yeah.
Wow.
So I ran it out of my bedroom at my parents' house whilst I was at school. And it was my kind of drive, I suppose, to build a business, but also to build a website. So I've been hugely involved in websites and development and all that kind of stuff, and had a huge interest in it. So that was kind of best of both worlds for me. I could kind of play with building a website, but also turn it into a business and actually get people using it, I suppose.
Now, when you were 13, this is about 2000, isn't it? 99, 2000, something like that?
Yes, it would have been 2000.
So what channels were you selling product? Because obviously we all know the digital era has evolved so much in nearly 20 years.
It was tough, definitely. I mean, the website was hideous, and it
Dreamweaver or something like that.
It was Dreamweaver. Yeah, it was Dreamweaver. Hate to say it, but I was using Dreamweaver. But the website was terrible, and my dad literally gave me £500 to buy the stock and buy a camera, and I went from there basically. Kind of took all the photos of the products, put them all on the website, and kind of drove it through like Yahoo and Google in its early days.
Who's Yahoo?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where a lot of the business came from to start with. And to be honest, in those days, there wasn't many competitors. I was one of the only online Cufflink store. These days, there's loads, and the margins are tiny. But I jumped into eBay stores at the kind of when eBay stores first came to market, and that took the business from kind of a couple of orders a day through to kind of 30, 40 orders a day, which was fantastic. But the margins were much less because eBay took a big chunk and PayPal took a big chunk. But it allowed me to automate stuff a lot more. I could have everything. So I'd get home from school, and my printer in the corner of the room had automatically printed out my orders. So I'd always walk through the door at night and hope that the wad of paper that had come out of the printers was nice and big, because it was a good sign that I'd got lots of orders that day.
Hoping the printers run out of paper.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So that was always a nice feeling, getting home from school and looking at kind of how many orders had come in, I suppose. But then I would spend every evening packing jiffy bags with cufflinks, and then running out of stock and worrying how I'm going to tell some of the customers that they've got to wait 2 weeks for their cufflinks and things like that. So
that's remarkable, because we hear stories fairly regularly of 18, 19, 20-year-olds starting business, but 13, and especially kind of early on in the web world, the web era. So how did you? I mean, we're going back way before people starting businesses, which is what we normally talk about. But at that age, how did you actually why did you decide? I want to have my own company when all of your mates are, chatting to girls, and I suppose you're not going out and drinking at that age.
No,
so you're out on the bikes and whatever it was.
We lived out in the sticks as well, so apart from the small community that I had around us, a lot of my mates were...
So it was sheer desperation for national recognition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no one cared about me in my little community, so I had to go globally. But I don't know, it was... obviously, being only 13 years old, I couldn't set up a bank account. I couldn't set up the business in my own name. So I was literally dragging my dad down to the bank with me to set it all up in kind of joint names and things. So my dad was a huge part of getting into business, but also it was a huge push from him as well to go, yeah, well, give it a try. I'll give you £500 to get it off the ground. And I suppose it was kind of seen as a kind of project for me in those days. Some people will do build things, whereas actually I kind of wanted to dabble in building a business. And even to this day, there's small things like registering a company and setting up and doing accounts and VAT returns and stuff like that. I always look back at how I used to do it on the back of a spreadsheet and things back then. And that, I suppose, I taught me a lot, even though I was only kind of 13, 14 years old. It still taught me a huge amount that I still use these days, which is quite weird.
So with that sort of entrepreneurial brain, because that is a real entrepreneurial brain, to do it at that age, there's not many people out there that can say, there's lots of successful business owners out there, but I come across very few that can say, I was started when I was, literally as I became a teenager. But you then, you went through school, college, university. Yep. Was there any part, and did you have a business while at university as well?
Yeah, so it was in my final year of university. I was just starting my final year of university, and I was in two minds.
This is still the Cufflink business?
Still the Cufflink.
So this is 8 years later?
Yeah. So I'd still ran it. I ran it through university. So obviously when you're at university, I'm moving from halls, moving house every year. I'm taking plastic drawers of Cufflink stock everywhere I go. So I'm having to find bedrooms that are big enough to fit all of my stuff in, basically. So I was still running it out of a bedroom. But it got to the final year of university and I was in two minds of whether to sell the business because I wanted to set up another business as part of my dissertation. Or the other option was to push it further and go more into the wholesale market. So I had a big ambition to build a brand, basically, because all I was doing, I was a middleman at that point. I was selling other people's cufflinks, and I looked at the wholesalers, and I think I only had about 2 or 3 wholesalers at that time. And I looked at them and I thought, I want to be them, but I want to do it better. So I went through all the research of sourcing stuff abroad and working with some designers to build my own. But my plan was to have a range of about 10 and then try and tackle Debenhams and John Lewis and get it into there. So I'd kind of drawn out a whole business plan to follow that through. But I dropped it entirely to concentrate on my final year studies.
So did you just close the doors one day?
I sold it, yeah. I sold it.
You sold the business?
I sold the business, yeah, for not much. It was enough to buy me a new car. But
that's not bad going for a student at university. True, yeah. I seem to remember being at university. Most of the people I knew had a brand new car. Mum and Dad bought it.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, yeah, it was great. I mean, the whole way through, because I was at university and I had a job whilst I was at university as well. It was never I want to make £1 million from this. It was a lifestyle thing. And
so you had a job while you were at university as well.
Yeah.
So you had the Cufflinks business, a job, and you were doing your degree.
Yeah.
Did you actually go out at all when you were at university?
Yeah, because I had loads of money. It was brilliant.
Just wild nights, but not very often.
Just really short, wild nights. You go into a student bar with 20 quid, you can buy everyone around. So no, it was hard work, definitely, but I think I did the job side simply for the social aspect of it. I think I'd worked at bars since I was young as well, so I wanted to carry that through. So that was a big social thing rather than the money. And yeah, the Cufflink side was beer money, I suppose, in the end. And coming out of university, it meant I didn't have to take. I took a loan, but I didn't take much of a loan, a student loan and stuff. So I think I look back at it and go, great, I paid off my student loan a few years ago, and I've still got friends that are going to be paying off for the next 20, 30 years. So part of what I did when I was younger has allowed me to pay all that off, I suppose, because I didn't have to take hundreds of loans.
Yeah, sure. So what happened to the Cufflink company after you sold it?
I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist anymore.
Right, okay.
But I got bought by one of our rivals, basically. See, he owned a slightly bigger cufflinks company, and he came to the market just after I came on it.
This man got this idea of two 13-year-old kids battling it out. How old was he?
He was older than me. He was quite a bit older than me. So he must have probably started it when he was in his mid-20s. He's probably 10, 12 years older than me. So yeah, he must have been in his mid-20s when he started it. But yeah.
How long into into owning the business did you guys actually come across each other?
Only right at the end. I mean, I came across him early doors because I was constantly looking at competitors and constantly looking at competitors' prices as well, because we often used the same wholesaler. So I could spot exactly what cufflinks were coming from, what wholesaler, and I knew exactly what margins people were making. So you'd look at competitor websites and go, I know they can't afford that. So they're undercutting on some things to try and get the sales in other areas. But back then you didn't have price checkers. These days you'll get a tool that scrapes other websites and it gives you a spreadsheet of what your competitors are charging. So you can easily change the prices. But back then it was literally manually going on and checking other people's prices and when they changed them and stuff. So
you did discover his business when you were like 13, 14 as a competitor.
Yeah.
So did this guy ever know that at 25, 26 years old, he was competing with a 13, 14-year-old kid in the market?
The only people that knew...
You must have told him one day when
when
I
bought and he came...
Did it sort of add up to him and he went...
Stuff. I don't think it ever twigged, because he actually came to one of my student houses to buy the business off me.
Right.
I don't know what must have been going through his head when he kind of turned up outside the student house to buy a business. I think he'd probably thought he'd been conned, basically.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it was quite weird, but yeah, I don't think it ever twigged for him.
Because that was the first thing I'd have been thinking is that this guy's been going 8 years. How old was he when I first came up against him?
No, it was never something that came up. The only people that knew my age were the wholesalers, and they didn't believe me. I can't remember what it was, but at one point, I think I was a year or two into the business, something came up, and I knew,
like they spoke to you on the phone and heard a squeaky voice.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, I think it was something like, "Sorry, I couldn't answer the phone earlier. I was at school," and they were like, "Yeah, I don't believe that one for a second."
They assumed you were a teacher or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, teacher of a part-time business, but yeah, no, actually that gave me. They treated me in a whole different way, I suppose. They respected me a lot more, but also understood that they probably deal with different size business. They were probably providing John Lewis with their stock of the same sort of cufflinks. I think, yeah, they had a lot more respect for me, although my purchases through them were much smaller than the bigger companies. But it was really nice to have that relationship.
That is a remarkable story. It really is remarkable. But anyway, I'm going to try and move away from that, because obviously
it's nice reflecting on it, because you don't get to talk about it often. So yeah, it's something that I'm hugely proud of. But yeah, I don't talk about it much anymore, I suppose.
Well, sitting on this side of the table, it is. It's mind-blowing. When I think back at what I'd achieved by the time I was 15, 16, I weep. And I'm sure there's probably people watching who are going, go on, Bennett, I was 13, 14 years old. I couldn't find my arse with both hands. And, by the time I was 18, I was at university and going out and getting drunk. When I got my 2-2 or whatever it was, I didn't have much to show for my degree. And I had a huge amount of money at the end of it, a huge loan at the end of it. And you had been on a journey which most people don't achieve till their 30s, normally at the earliest. So it is very, very impressive.